is Promaster conversion part 2 of 2 webasto heater install. This is the second part, but I'll just review a couple things that I talked about originally to clarify. Remember when I told you you got the webasto right there, and this is the mock of the black plate that you get, and this black plate has holes that are X'd out here in this cardboard, but this is about the size of the black plate you get. And I was going to try to illustrate how the issue that I came across and the way that I solved it. Now remember, this plate goes on. The holes are drilled out for the fuel, the fresh air intake, and the exhaust. A little tip here, you have to install this first and then install the hoses. Now, depending upon where you're going to install this, if it's underneath the vehicle, you can imagine you got the floor there, this is a bolting plate. It's going to be very difficult to, because the fuel, the exhaust, and the intake are so close together that the clamps, it's very crowded. So I would advise, before you installed the webasto, you cut your floor out, not this plate, but the floor, and you cut a big enough hole for all of these to fit down, a big square or oval hole, and then this plate lays down. But before you do that, you want to install this plate on the webasto, and then install your fuel hose and your intake and your exhaust pipe with the clamps that they give you. The issue with this plate, remember, as I've told you, this plate that they give you is wide and the webasto is longer, so it hangs out. I'll show you. See, like if you stick it on top of the webasto here, this plate, as you can see, if you put bolts in this plate, and the outer bolts, the one I have in there, is the hole for bolting the plate down once the plate's already bolted to the bottom of the webasto. And then what I didn't tell you in the other, when you cut out your floor mat here to lay the webasto to kind of dial it in, you've got your floor mat cut out. This is laying on top. Before you mount this plate to the webasto, you put the plate down and mark these 4 mounting holes. And the issue is that since this plate is as wide as the webasto, the bolts here bottom out on the bottom. So you have to put these bolts in, all 4 bolts like this, then mount this to the bottom of the webasto. And the bolts won't fall out because they hit like this, they hit the top. But the problem is, make sure when you drill out for these holes, these mounting holes that mount the webasto and the plate, which is bolted, because the webasto has 4 studs, and I don't have it marked here, but there's 4 studs that go around these that it goes into, and this plate bolts onto it. So you put these studs in, and then you bolt this plate, then you put your hose clamps on, fuel, exhaust, and intake, and you have these bolts sort of just dangling like this. So you got the webasto here, then you come and you want the holes big enough so when you got to get down like this, and let's say you're mounting it, so you got these bolts sort of dangling, then you gingerly try to line up these bolts to the floor, and then you drop it down in there, and the bolts will be pushed down because they're hitting the casing of the heater. And you want them long enough so when you're underneath the rig that you can get up there and put a washer and a lock washer on it. And it also makes it easier. Now imagine you have this plate's bolted on, these bolts are in there, and the webasto is sitting here on top of it with these 4 with the studs hanging out. I told you that the bolts that came with it were too short, so I used 1/4 inch bolts through it, which fit through the holes of this plate pretty good. So when you set the plate down, you've got to put all the hoses and the fuel hose and the fuel line, it's all at once. So you'll drop this whole thing down your hole and kind of feed all that equipment down at one time through the hole. That's why in the floor you want to cut a big enough hole that when you set the webasto down, all your hoses go down and they're not hitting any sheet metal or rubbing against anything. So you want a big enough hole. Now I'm going to get up underneath and show you how I did it. And I got a little light here. So give me a second. I'm going to go underneath here and I'm going to show you how I did it and try to give you an example of how it's set up. Let me see if I can't focus in on it here. So if you can see that right there, that's the black plate. Those bolts that you see are in the webasto, and then if I can maneuver over here and show you, I'll show you my bolts. Let me see if I can't see it. It's kind of hard to see, but okay, there it is. So that's one of my bolts that go through the outer side of the plate that you kind of got to just dance with and play with to drop down there. And as you can see, I can show you here. I don't know if you can see it that well, but you see there's so much, it's so crowded in there that you've got to attach all your clamps and things like that. See if I can give you a better shot. It's kind of hard to see in here, but you have the hoses and things like that. So you can see you had to cut out a fairly big hole and you drop it all down at once. Once again, as a Promaster on the passenger side, you could see it'd be extremely difficult to tighten hose clamps and a fuel clamp line to that if you're underneath here. So you want to drop it down as one unit. Everything's bolted, the black plate's all bolted up, and the only thing you need to do is get up there and basically, if I can point to it without, give you some light here, but you got to get up there and basically there's four bolts. Now, the shroud you're seeing right here is the heat shroud for the muffler. And what you're going to have to do is there's two bolts right here that are right next to the muffler, and loosen these two bolts. I think they're 8mm. Loosen those two bolts and you can pull this heat guard down, and you're going to have to bend it back to get up, to get enough room to get up here to be able to get your hand in there and bolt it up. And then as far as the fuel goes, I'll show you real quick over here. The fuel tank, as you see, is over here. Try to put some light on it for you. And I ran the fuel line. You can see it right up there. It's hard to point to, but it's the thinner black. And I ran that up and over this assembly here around the heat shroud here on the upper side of it, and I brought it down. Now, how I mounted, I'm going to show you how I mounted the pump, and the fuel pump is right here, and basically this is a dead-on view. So to give you an idea, this is where the seat is, and you just come straight down, and there's a cavity right under here. Now, the reason I bolted the fuel pump here is because I wanted this fuel pump to be above the frame of the vehicle. So this lip here, there's a lip. Let's see if I can show it to you here. There's a lip right here, and there's about an inch behind here. So you can drill a hole right through here, and this bracket comes with the kit, and you can, on the back side, there's, like I say, a lip. It's about a 1/4 inch, maybe a 5/16 hole, and you can drill your mounting bracket right there, and it keeps your fuel pump. So if you're, bushes, or depending on where you're camping and everything, or you bottom out, you're going to hit the bottom of this before you hit the fuel pump. And the line, I kind of did the same with the line. I drilled a hole right over here and put the fuel line through there, and this is going to connect to the fuel pump. So I just drilled a little hole right through here, just kind of protect it. I'll probably put a clamp right here, and then came around and did the fuel. This is going to the webasto on this side, and then this side is fed from the tank. And there's a pickup on the tank here. I can show you that real quick. And I haven't hooked that up yet. That's the next step, but I'll show you that. And so on the fuel, you have this round thing right here, where this is the pickup for it. This is the fuel line that runs down there, and I'm about to install this right now and hook up the electrical to the fuel pump, which there's 2 leads that come down from the bottom of the webasto. I haven't gotten that far yet, but if you get that far, I'm pretty sure you can figure it out. One thing I didn't cover as far as the seats go, the 2 bolts, there's 2 bolts in front, right? Let me see if I can show you. To pull the seat out is really easy. I didn't talk about this in my first video. There's a bolt there, and then there's a bolt right there. They're metric. Pull those bolts out. The seat comes forward from these things. There's nothing holding it in back. It's just on those 2 studs right there. It goes forward and comes out. One other thing I was going to mention, as far as the wiring for the airbags, the yellow, orange, and black harnesses there, you don't have to unhook them, where if you did, you need to turn off your battery. Just be careful you don't pinch the wires. You just need to cut the zip ties that are holding it to the frame of the seat. And there's plenty of slack there to pull the seat out. But you do want to be careful. You don't want to obviously pull those out or anything. If you do put it on the driver's side, it's the same 2 bolts, but there's actually another bolt that goes into a bracket for the emergency brake. You'd have to take that off. So anyway, that's pretty much the webasto hookup. Almost done with it. So hope that that helps you out. If you have any questions, feel free to write me, and please subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Just give you a quick review of my Promaster. She's almost done. It's the bed / 2-way couch, folds up both ways, and that's just a quick review of it. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.